again with another video where I don't really even have a topic in mind. Just felt to click record again. Have a lot of different things on my mind. For those of you who watched the Desire video, I don't intend on making it a habit of smoking in my videos. I just happen to be smoking right now, and I just don't give a fuck anymore. Yeah, I wanted to basically, I guess, one of the things was essentially that you don't need more to be happier. Acquiring more does not equate to more happiness. And just, it's the same thing in all of my videos. It's always the same message, just in different flavors, different ways that I'm saying it. But like, when you really basically understand the zero-sum nature of life, you have to realize that life, it doesn't actually exist. Like, profit and loss, gain and loss, or pain and pleasure, winning and losing. Nah, I can't lie, this shit is too funny, like. And it's just a cosmic joke, like, it's actually life is a joke. It's a big joke. People taking it seriously. You have to realize, like, seriousness. Wait, I'm gonna go, because I had a few notes on, like, different video ideas, and I guess I can just spin off them and make them all into just one video. But yeah, for example, seriousness, because I was gonna do one about serious and funny. You have to realize that God is the ultimate comedian, and we are the punchline. Your life, like every single thing that you think is so serious, like realize that life. What is it? As I said, I've explained a lot of these things as well in different aspects, but another aspect of life itself is realizing that you always have something on the line. Life, in a sense, is the ultimate gamble. You're always gambling. You think you're not, but you're always gambling. Nothing is assured. You are in a field of chaos. It's you. And then you can control like this amount, like 0.001%. And then you're out here versing the 99%, the world, the universe, the other, like, or the others. You know what I'm saying? Us, not them. Me, not him. This is the first time you're watching one of my videos, you'll probably think this guy's a madman. I would suggest you watch some of my other videos of like, I've actually explained things properly, laying the foundation, but I'm assuming that by this point you've watched a few of those and you kind of understand my whole kind of model of reality, as it's just the absolute, and then it's just infinite smaller relative conditional truths, and they're all like defined by its opposite and what it is not, as opposed to really what it is. And in the absolute, everything is itself, and it's acausal and uncreated and absolute. Really, that is true, and it has no opposite, and it could never not be that way. You think that this video was created, but there could have been some alternate reality where it wasn't. No. This exists because, like, it's absolute. You have to realize, like, people think, why does something happen? Like why did I just ask this split? Or why did I say that particular word right now and not now? Why do I look this way and not that way? All of these things. It's absolute. We're in eternity. We're in eternity. And all of these are like little wave functions, like little probabilities. Little probabilities. Like in the zero, remember I told you zero is infinity. So there's infinite possibilities. And within infinity, there's all of the sub-finite finitudes. So like everything as I explained in the can you handle the void video, which I know that got the least amount of views, and I'm not even surprised about that, but this is how this shit works. Like, people like the flashy stuff, like, even though my other videos as well, they're even still not even flashy at all. Like, I just wanted to just be straight, bare bones, just direct truth, nothing but that. See, like, well, yeah. So as I was saying with the serious and funny, right? Like in life, you always have the strong illusion that you have a body, a self, and you always have something on the line. Even you yourself, you are on the line. That's life. That's life in a nutshell. You are in the line. You must fulfill this particular conditions so that you can remain. Like, realize in the relative plane, your existence conditional is in comparison to something else. It's dependent upon certain conditions, your existence, you, supposedly. But this is what I'm saying. When you realize the absolute self, like, it's just, it takes a while for it even to settle in, but just the deeper it settles in, it's just crazy because it's just like, it's so absolute, yeah. It could just never not be that. You could never not be yourself. So there's nothing to defend. You're formless. You don't really have a form. Recognize right now, you think you have a form, but check. And see, this is what I'm saying. The problem with the mind, as I said, the mind is everything is in contrast. So when I tell you something is formless, in your mind, the way that registers, that means in your mind, because all it knows is forms, formlessness is kind of, in your mind, is synonymous with non-existence. Like, to you, that means that it doesn't exist. And in a sense, it does. This is why in my absolute truth videos, I said everything is made out of truth. It's made out of truth itself. Because let me just try to remember my train of thought there. Yeah, so why would it, even though truth, what truth feels like when you have an awakening of absolute truth, what it feels like, in a sense, is just pure existence. Just existence. But the reason why I don't even call it existence is because existence is a division. As I said, existence is a particularity, a form which is particular, as opposed to that. It's this way, not that way. So, like, this body exists because it has a form. That chair exists because it has a form. Formlessness doesn't have a form. So, in a sense, it doesn't exist. But your brain, like, when you think something doesn't exist, to you, that means it's not true. Do you get what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is that something can be formless, it can be non-existent, and still be true. But see, you put in your mind, existence is like above truth. Like you kind of think like, oh, there's existence which is more absolute, and then there's things that are true and false. But I'm saying no, there's only truth, and there's things that exist and don't exist, and they're both equally true. And in fact, everything exists, and the only thing that doesn't exist is non-existence. That's what I was explaining to you in the absolute. See, Like in the relative plane, everything is defined by each other and what it's not. But then in the absolute, it is itself. It is. Not it isn't, because isn't. See, that's what I was explaining with the plus and the plus is a plus, and a minus and a minus is a plus, because isn't is. Do you get it? Is, isn't, is. So everything is, even what isn't. Don't you get it? It's absolute. It can never not be this. It's truth itself. It's not consciousness. It's not fucking like atoms. It's not pixels on the screen. It's not energy. Like even energy really is an illusion. See, even the mind, spiritual ego, what I was explaining to you, the trap of the chosen, the illusion of the spiritual journey. There was no journey. That was the illusion. But see, what you have to realize is that within the journey, there's so many layers and more macro layers to where you keep on escaping, and then you keep on thinking that you escaped. Oh, that the whole thing. Like now I'm on the outside, but any particular angle that you take, no matter what, any angle, no matter how high it is still an angle and still limited and not the absolute. The absolute is no angle. It's all the angles cancelled back out, just back onto the 0 point. Nothing. So the big joke about life is it's the idea that you are alive and that you've been alive, and that it's true that you're alive and that you have something on the line which needs to be protected. This, my body, my lineage, my line, my family name. I don't know. Whatever. My country, my this, my that. Like, my status. Ah, yes, look at me. I'm so particular and so, yes, very good. Perfect. Perfectionism. There's all different kinds of versions of actors. There's infinite actors here, but there's only one self. Do you see it? All actions are false. You see, the mind, you could imagine the absolute or truth or the field, like the quantum field, if you're scientific minded, or God, whatever. What we're speaking about. What are we speaking about? See, this is what I'm saying. People watch this, they don't know. Like, they're thinking, they're trying to think. They're trying to grasp, like, what is he thinking about? Like, you're doing models. Like, wait, maybe he's saying this. Maybe he's saying that, oh yes, he said this word. I think by this word, he's saying this, right? No, like, this, like, existence, like, truth. This thing, not forget about like the details, not this way or in particular or that way, like the thing itself. See, because like, it's just a complete paradigm shift. Like, and see, I agree with people that say there's levels of awakening and stuff like that. But then also to some degree, this idea, some people will say that there's no like on and off switch of enlightenment. Like you can't just have a switch and be enlightened at a particular point. And I agreed to that to some degree, but for me, it was a little bit different. Like, for me, it was like 9 or 10 years ago, at the age of 15, I heard about the concept of enlightenment. I was an immature teenager. I didn't know what the fuck that was. But from young, I was always philosophical. I did A-levels in philosophy. I'd always been kind of thinking like that. And I was raised a Christian till I was like 7 or 8, but it was very like it wasn't strict at all. Like my mum and dad, they were both Christian, but not really. Kind of like, if you get what I'm saying. I got like first communion, baptized, and all that. But I broke out of the illusion of religion like at the age of 8 already. So then I was kind of agnostic because it was clear to me that there's too much order and things are too in particular to be by accident. But at the same time, it did not make logical sense for me for there to be a creator to have created this, because then who created the creator? And you get what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, like, so if you're saying, oh, like the God created this, then what created God? Like, it doesn't make sense, if you get what I'm saying. Like, so both ways didn't make sense to me. So I was doing philosophy, I kind of studied all of that, that was good. But then at the age of 15, I heard about the concept of enlightenment. As I said, I was an immature teenager, just having fun, but I was quite smart. Like, I'm not to like brag or I don't know. I have decent intelligence since young. Maybe not the top student in the class, but I'm always up like in the top bracket. So, I essentially kind of was chasing enlightenment for all the wrong reasons. I was like, as I said, I smoked. That was like I explained in the desire video. I'm not perfect. Like I'm not trying to even say I'm better than you or this or that. I'm exactly the same as you. It's just that I've invested my time into something completely different to the 99.99999% of people, and I've got returns on different things. And it's completely impersonal. You have to realize, like, and I even went through that phase as well of like, oh, like, that quote unquote, like, oh, if you're enlightened, like, the enlightened person wouldn't say they're enlightened. They're too enlightened to claim to be enlightened. Only an unenlightened person would claim to be enlightened. Like, I fell into that as well. And I think that, yeah, it's true to some degree. But at a certain point, it came to a certain point where, like, and this was more in my self-realization stage where I remember I told you, you're in absolute, you're in certainty, falsehood at the bottom, which where 99% of people are. Then it goes up, and then you're going into uncertainty, debunking that, and then there's less and less people. You're getting to higher levels of awakening, but you're going kind of to max uncertainty, and it's just neither this nor that. It's just chaos. And then that's kind of like, I don't know, for me it's kind of like so strange because I had this insane experience of Shiva. And I never even took the Indian philosophy or anything like that really too seriously before this point. But when I had this encounter, obviously I know it's not like obviously Shiva represents that which is not or nothing or there isn't. See, remember I'm saying isn't. So like that's kind of what represents Shiva, if you get what I'm saying. And I watched, it's so mad because in India, Shiva is like regarded by most as the Mahadev, like the god of gods. Because if you think about it, yes, like, and then see, so there's the Trinity, Brahman or Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So you could almost think of that as like as I said, like the neutron, the proton, the electron, or whatever, basically. But it's like Brahman is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva is the destroyer. And some people look at that in a negative light. But then essentially the contextualized way, the way I kind of understand it, how some gurus explain it, is that what Shiva kind of represents is that you see how, like as I said, everything is actually zero. In actuality, is zero. Nothing was really ever created. Everything is just a deviation away from that. But in a sense, in this analogy, Brahman, or the creator, which is kind of what most people actually refer to as God, like the creator. that, yeah, that's like kind of what creates everything. That's about everything about substantiality. And then Vishnu is like the sustenance, like sustaining that, survival, like sustaining what's been created, keeping it like that for a particular time. Like you could imagine it like an arc. There's the creation and then you sustain, but then you see how because it came from zero to begin with, and like you could say things were created, but in a sense it's an illusion or it's all on lease. Remember, as I explained. But because it came from zero and in actuality it is zero. So no matter how it gets created and then how much it gets sustained, in the end it always must fall back to zero again, if you get what I'm saying. So why they refer to Shiva as the Mahadev is because that was actually the constant of what it really always was. It really always was nothing. Then there was just the creation, which you could imagine. That's what I'm saying. Like consciousness it just is itself, which is kind of zero. It's just a loop, which is just nothing. It is itself, but then the mind or creation, in a sense, is like an overlay. And then there's many layers of overlay. And then awakening is kind of like peeling back them layers and coming back to just pure self. And then it's just the self. And then you realize, oh, like in all the dreams, I thought that the self was within the dream and contingent upon this human body. But then you realize, oh, the body drops, but the self was just still there. But see, it's just like you have to break through so many layers. That's what I was saying. There's infinite layers. See, because we're in eternity, God has no limits upon it. So it has infinite capacity. It sounds strange to say that God would deceive itself, but God has infinite capacity to create everything and deceive itself. Because remember, see, it is all powerful, but this is why it's a paradox, because it is all powerful. It can do everything, but like, it's still like, it can never not be itself because it's absolute. That's what you just don't get. So every time, like, it can create a very elaborate illusion or appearance or suggestion to itself that it's not absolute, and that that do you get what I'm saying? Like this right now, what's happening right now? Like, you think you're watching a YouTube video? No, you're in the void. You're God. You're in the void right now, creating an automatic. You made it because you have infinite things. So you made it in a way to where, see, you're thinking, oh, but I'm not even aware of the mechanics of why, like, how is it? But see, see, this is happening on the highest layers, and you're kind of like down here on the consciousness. But at the highest level, even though you're not conscious of them, they're always there. And at the highest level, you've kind of done it in such a way to where it's automatic. Like, you don't have to, like, see how you don't have to try to breathe. Like, and that's just the micro self. So for the macro self, it doesn't really even have to like make an effort to delude itself back into the dream. Because see, it's almost like, yeah, the self is there, and because it is absolute, it's allowed this Maya to exist because it knows that if it is itself in its highest degree, it could never fall into the dream. So it allows the dream to be there to allow itself to fall asleep if it wants to. Like, it can allow itself to dream, fall asleep and dream, oh, like, I'm a human on Earth. Or it can, like, if you awaken to a certain point, then even if the dream of Earth is still playing in front of your screen, it's so blatant to you that, do you get what I'm saying? That it's just like, that's that over there. Even though there's no gap, there's no gap, but it's just very paradoxical. Like, this is just states of consciousness that can't be explained through words. But yeah, so like, for example, and your life, I keep on coming back to this, but your life, you think you have something on the line, and that's what makes it serious, because you think that there's things that can be lost. You think that there's things that can be gained. You think that you have potential that needs to be filled. You think that there's experiences that you that you may experience if you do the right things, and experience other experiences which you may not if you don't do the right things. And I got to do the right thing to kind of make it happen like this, and then like that, and then so I can, and then make it happen and then succeed. Like, so everything is like uncertain. You're always battling, always, you know what I'm saying? So that's what makes it seem serious. But then the punchline of the cosmic joke is when you realize that you never were alive. When you just really get it, like, there never was a creation. That's a memory. Do you recognize that the whole of existence? What you think? What is the universe? What's the universe? What's Earth like? What is the molecules of gold like? What is that? What's that made out of? That's a memory. A memory in the mind of God. God just remembers, because you see, everything in eternity, everything already exists. There doesn't have to be even the idea of creation is a limited notion. like to create something, there needs to be something that has to get created. But if everything's already created, like everything is already that, so then why are you creating then? The only thing you can create is actually something that doesn't exist. See, that's why the whole world is Maya. It's a deviation from the truth, because the truth already is itself and it's just nothing. It just has no form. So the world is just many forms and objects, different sounds, elaborate things. Like you got vision. It seems like you have vision, and seems like you have touch so particular. Like, yeah, this is a human organism and this and that. Like, it's just, see, there's a screen or empty consciousness or space. Then, as I said, really it's just a screen and it's just a zero. But in a sense, you have to kind of pay some homage to, like, it's kind of like the feminine aspect, as I explained, Shakti, which is, in a sense, energy. Like when people say everything is energy, because what I define as energy is just zero, but it's the oscillation of zero. But see, that's why everything is kept in accounts, and karma and everything, all these laws of correspondence and everything is because it always is itself. So no matter how much it shape shifts, that's essentially the essence of Maya, is the shapeshifter. Like there's just this still screen which never changes. Recognize this moment is exactly the same as that moment 5 seconds ago. And then even if you cut yourself, it might seem like if you kill yourself, things are going to change, but that's because you're so identified with the body. But you could do more minor things, cut yourself or something, or I don't know, you lose 100 pounds, and then just check, wait, nothing changed. It's still the same moment, here now, nothing. The quality is just exactly the same. Everything. See, the only thing that changes is your mind. The mind is the mind is like the oscillations. It's bipolar. See, people think that there's the masculine and the feminine, plus and minus, and that's true. But even in a sense, the true masculinity and femininity is not really that masculine is plus or feminine is plus and masculine is minus, or feminine is minus. No, really it's feminine is plus and minus, and masculine is zero, if you get what I'm saying. And then it's the feminine is it's the world, it's the wild oscillation, deviations from the zero, but that's how it creates the forms of the worlds of wonder and beauty. See, so many beautiful forms. But then, you see, recognize, because it's a zero-sum game, all beauty, everything, every peak comes at the cost of an equal valley. So the more the more pleasure you seek, the more pain you will reinforce back to yourself. So that's fine if you understand that and you say, all right, well, I don't care. I have the capacity, so I'm gonna try and get the highest peak, and I can sustain and encapsulate the lowest valleys. I'm strong enough to firm it. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't want to bring more suffering to yourself, then you have to realize that you have to try and you have to kind of lower your goals or try to get less pleasure, because otherwise that's why all of these things, I know it's hypocritical, but things like this, or just basically any kind of thing to where it's like quick hits, dopamine hits, or feelings of pleasure that are in a sense unearned. Because remember, like, it's not that it's unearned because you had to like roll something, but you do kind of deep down know that it's like an artificial like pump. Like, it's not really like the dopamine system. All these things are really supposed to it's supposed to be like you really actually achieve something, and then you get that. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be more leveled. Like literally how I explained in the zero thing, like the effort and reward, and how and that balance, and that payoff and the cost. So it's like death, as I said. So like the price of life is death. Like that's why death is just inevitable. Like there will never ever be a state where like some kind of species or something will become what's it called? Immortal. Because see, it's just completely, it's all about your paradigm again. Because what are you even, it's also psychological. It's all just about the labels and the boxes. The boxes is what makes it seem like it's the same thing, but there's not even such a thing as a human. That's a concept. Realize that this is just a shape in the shapeshifter. Like this is just one field that's shape shifting, and it's always itself. Like it's just a complete paradigm shift. Like I don't know. Maybe I should actually also speak more about psychedelics as well. But I feel like I need to make its own video for that. I don't know, because like psychedelics, I'm not gonna get too into it, but psychedelics is not a magic pill for enlightenment. That's false. At the same time, it's false to say that psychedelics cannot enlighten you. Both of those statements are false. Relatively speaking, because remember, that's all in the relative plane as well. See, that's already all in the dream. See, but as I said, the trick of the mind is what the mind does. It creates a section of, there's things that are real, and then there's things that are in that are the dream. Or it puts the dream there and then the real there. And then it kind of couches itself in the real, looking at the dream, not knowing that section of the real or enlightened stage in their mind is also a subsection of the dream. See, they're still in the dream, but they've identified as a enlightened being in the dream. And then, like, see, that's why, like, there are some gurus who I watch who are actually really enlightened, and I can tell. But then there's some, even I can tell they're enlightened, but then I can still kind of tell some things, like they're still in the dream. Like they're speaking to you about levels of the dream still. But in a sense, yeah, and that's why I was speaking about the on and off switch, because in a sense, I'll be so real to you. After self-realization, yes, there's like still, the micro self can always still develop and stuff like that. But like I don't know, for me, at a certain point, like it's just the end of progression. Like, it's just like full stop. That's what it feels like. It's just an actual It's like like the sentence began. It went like it was progressing, and then it stopped. In eternity, like there's not even like a moment, like it just stopped. So it's just like it stopped, and I don't know. It's just like you would think, and I'm still trying to work on this myself, kind of trying to increase my willpower. And as I said, I am still trying to quit all of this stuff, but it's just something that I need to burn through. But who knows? I don't know. I might be smoking for. I don't want to. Who knows? See, this is what I'm saying because this is the mind. This is the mind speaking. I can only communicate with you through the mind. And all those enlightened people that you think you're listening to, that's their mind. That's their ego that you're hearing. You can't speak directly to the self or to God. You have to become God. You have to become the self, and then you will be it. It's not like you can speak to some, like, this idea of like, oh yes, that guru and he's enlightened. Like, people, like, when they like hear of like some enlightened guru or something, like, they think that they kind of think that they're some prophet, or like they actually kind of think of that person as like godlike or like actually above them in some kind of way. And like, yeah, in a sense, like if you're speaking about actual knowledge of how the dualistic dream works, they are way higher level than pretty much everyone else, of course. But that's still in the dream, though. And I think some of them are out of the dream, but you have to realize, as I said, the self is formless. Like, the self can't do anything. It has no action because it has no form. Like, it just is itself. That's it. All of enlightenment, it was like getting more knowledge and understanding more and more and more. Like, it was kind of like, first, as I said, before enlightenment, I heard about the concept at 15, and then I remember I told you I got enlightened in 2020. So that was 5 years after, at the age of 20 or 21. But that whole time I was kind of intellectually trying to grasp it, intellectually trying to understand it, and I was understanding it, and then I remember like there was a distinct difference. I was thinking, oh, like what's it gonna be like? Oh, imagine I think it's gonna be like this and like that, and then like actually, like I was actually basically trying to get enlightened. I remember like distinctly, it was a different feeling. Like I was trying to actually get enlightened, and then there was a shift. Like I had like certain peak experience, but it wasn't even really the peak experiences. There was one kind of, it was almost, it wasn't even, it wasn't it was just like so normal. It was just so normal, but it was just such a clear shift. Like it was literally like, it was just a moment. I was actually meditating at the time. It wasn't psychedelics or anything, but I was doing some psychedelics at the time. This was actually during COVID lockdown. It's so crazy how this happened. And then I was there. I was just meditating, and then yeah, it just shifted. It was literally like, because this is why I would kind of also disagree to some degree about like how like, yeah, there's just levels, and really you can't say any one individual's enlightened or not. Like, yes, really you can't really say that. There's not really such a thing as an, but really, like, compared to like when you just listen to certain people, like you can actually tell, like you can actually tell kind of like you can't really just say that they're not enlightened, if you get what I'm saying. Like, at a particular point, it's almost like you would be it's more of a lie to say that you're not enlightened at that point than to say you are. Do you get what I'm saying? At some point, like you would just be lying if you said not. Like, no. Like, trying to play the humble, like no, like that's,
even see, like, yes, bravado and trying to be that king and all that thing. Yes, that's also a lie. But even that, no, I'm just nothing. Like, no, that's also a lie. So you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not up, it's not down, it's not right, it's not left. It's you are the sun. Jesus Christ. Everything revolves around you. Like, you're in eternity. Nowhere where you could go is not there. You're it. You're that. You're the self, truth, existence. You can realize that you've always been. Try and, like, you have this idea you was born. Like, try to remember. Oh, you think, oh, I just was like. It's, I don't know, man. Certain times I think making videos is a waste of time because it's trying to explain it. And I didn't even make videos for a long, long time because it's just slightly a waste. But I feel like, basically, I don't even know if if someone was completely a novice and had no understanding of any non-duality or enlightenment or just any kind of concept or self-realization, anything. I don't know if this would help them, but I feel like if there's people who've actually been on the path for a few years, I think that it could actually help them. So yeah, and then I remember, and then when it happened, I would describe it as like, you can't go back after that, if you get what I'm saying. Like, it can't be unremembered. It's not like something you just learn and forget. Like, it's not like that at all. It's like, it just genuinely, so it didn't feel like some mad peak experience at the time, but it was so silent, but it was just so true. And I just realized, like, there's no way this could ever be cancelled because any state of consciousness at all, anything at all, it is like, it's not conditional. It's not conditional. That's what you have to understand. Like, you still keep thinking about, like, oh, it's conditional. Like, I even have to be a human and be alive. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's everything is in your life is conditional because you still think you're a human. You have to survive. Like, I can't allow this to happen because they might do this. I can't allow that to happen because that might happen there. Like, but the absolute is just so unconditional. But at the time, like, at this point, I couldn't articulate anything. Like, this was just basically when the first shift, like when the real shift happened in 2020. And then after that, it was just pure integration. But I was basically going ever deeper levels. And this is basically where I would have agreed way more with the other people, that there's just infinite levels and you're just always getting more and more and more awake. And that's what it felt like. It just felt like you're falling into the infinite void, and how could you ever hit the bottom? There's no bottom or no top. It's just like infinite. And it's true. Like, see, that's like kind of like when you're at the peak of the pyramid, which is still the whole dream. Imagine the dream is the pyramid, but then like this way you're at the peak, but you're still in the dream, but you're at the peak now, and you can see the whole dream, but you're still in it. And then, as I was explaining, self-realization is when you even escape even just the dream itself, like even the triangle, and even being at the peak or whatever. And yeah, so like at that point, I would have agreed, and it did feel I was just having more and more awakenings, infinite more, just crazier states, and it was just insane. Like, so much knowledge, so much download, so many like crazy things happening. Like, nah, I swear to God, like if people like, nah, what's it called? Yeah, and then so self realization was also just something completely different because it was so shocking. I thought I put my phone on. Thing. One sec. Sorry, I thought I put my phone on flight mode. Yeah, self-realization. It was so shocking. Like, of course, all of awakening, it was all insane, crazy. But then, like, this was just something else. Like, it was kind of like it just was the end of the game. Like, there's just nothing. Like, it just can't be anything after that. Like at a certain point, it's just like it's stupid to say like there's more levels than that. It's like stupid. Like, I don't know. I might watch this back 20 years later and be like, wow, I was a fool. I thought I got there. But I'm telling but it's just, that's not what I'm saying at all. But like, when you just realize there's just nowhere to go and it's just like, no, like, it's just, there's nothing left. It's just, there's no more levels after that. Like, there's not even a desire to like, awaken more and see more. Like, you've seen everything. There's nothing that you haven't seen. You've seen everything. It's almost like, it's fun to say. It's not in a depressed way. I'm not like I'm like every single moment, even if the micro self is kind of seems to be not enjoying the particular moment that I'm in. Like, I'm enjoying everything. It's fun, but I enjoy my ups. I enjoy my downs. I enjoy everything. I enjoy it all. And at the same time, it feels like I've completed this game. And it's all, not in a mad way, but it's almost difficult to kind of stay in the body and just live a normal life. Like, actually just after self-realization, everything else is a side quest. Everything else is a side quest at that point. Like, literally, like, but basically everyone else is like, all the side quest, like, what's the side quest to you now is like what everyone else thinks like is the main quest. Like, they're chasing that, but like, you've just gone to, like, you've completed the actual whole thing. So it's just like, everything is just a side quest, which you can do if you want to, but really, like, I don't know, like, there's not even, like, it's an energetic difference because there's not even the desire to expand anymore. It might sound nihilistic or anything, but it's just, it's not intellectual. It's sunk to the subatomic level in my being. Like, it knows, like, even my mind might play up. My mind might like imagine, like, play like it's forgetting or something like that. Like, it might like, oh, like I forgot, like, and then try and do this thing and whatever, and then it just always just comes back to the, like, it's just like, no matter how far it deviates, like, it's just always knows, and like, it just deviates less now. And then it's just like, it's just, at a certain point, it's just like the energy, like, it's like the charge. In a sense, the charge is so high, but in a sense, it's so low. It's so dissipated at the same time. Like, it's like, it feels like I'm on, like, such a low voltage, but at the same time, it feels like if I really wanted to, I could tap into infinite energy, and in a sense, it feels like I could never run out of energy. But at the same time, it feels like I'm, like, every moment, it feels like I'm on my last voltage. And I'm holding on. I'm like, that's like it feels like I have to hold on to the body. Like, I can do it. And then even, I don't know, like, people might not believe me. Like, I'm not even saying this. Like, this is not even stuff that I even really think about like that. But when I really do think about it, it is kind of like this, man. Especially after 2022, like, because there was this particular moment in 2022, as I said, that was more the Shiva experience. That was in a sense where I really, like, because I died many times, ego death, kind of with
as I said, I, I didn't get enlightened through psychedelics. I did self inquiry, meditation, and psychedelics, like kind of those three, and also listening to many other lots of different gurus. People say that you shouldn't do that, but I like to do that because I like to I like to kind of try to. One thing that one person also taught me was that kind of your own mind is like your own worst enemy, and you can't see your own blind spot. So I like to kind of chop myself down from every angle and then see what they're saying, what overlaps, and what they're saying, what doesn't overlap, and try to kind of pin the cause, and then kind of just try to, you know what I'm saying, be like, it was always just about the core. And then even with one trip as well, I remember it was so clear to me. This was kind of when this wasn't about enlightenment, but this is when I knew about, like, when I kind of became meditative, and when I really got the click, like it was traction in consciousness, not like something that I like thought, like it was like, no, it was a real like traction shift, like real, where I really like got a direct hit on what consciousness and meditation and what it actually is. Like when I realized meditation is existence itself, is being. You can never not be meditating. Like you're trying to meditate, you can never not be meditating. So literally meditation is like a non-action. Stop doing, start being. Okay, you're a human being, but they've turned you into a human doing. um, um, let me just hear what I was speaking about that. Yeah, so like that's kind of when I became meditative, because then I realized that you don't have to do anything to meditate. It's a non-doing. It's effortless, but you're just so programmed to like exerting effort. So that's why the modern man can't meditate. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that was when I became meditative and so on. But then yeah, 2022. Yeah, so this was, yeah, as I said, so I died many times psychologically, kind of ego death, or not even psychologically. Like that's when like the whole like through, because as I said, this was it was all kind of 2020. It was strange. It was like a few months. It was as I, as I said, the in what enlightenment or the actual switch wasn't even me on like on any psychedelics or anything. I was just meditating. But at the same time, in that same interval or period of time, I was also doing a lot of LSD. The only two psychedelics I've done are LSD and mushrooms. And LSD, yeah. So I done maybe like, I think about 3 trips, maybe 3 or 4 trips in that kind of yeah, in 2020, when I had access to that at that time. And yeah, that was already like it's insane, insane. Like those kind of like that was kind of when I realized as well, like this is so long ago. This is so long ago, but this was when I realized, like, for example, that I am life itself. I'm life. Like people are doing so much stuff because they think like they're speaking about more life, like they're trying to get life. You think you get more life by more experiences, but you are already life itself. Like nothing can add on to you. That's why nothing will fulfill you, because you're life itself. And that's not a bad thing, but it's just like you are life. So when you realize that you don't have to keep doing that and going out and like getting unsatisfied and getting some other thing or whatever, like you can just collapse back in pure satisfaction. So like I realized that was life itself. Loads of different things. I can't even explain that. But and
that's where, yeah, I also did die as well, many times. You have to kind of die many times on the journey. And then even, for example, like the cessation, when I saw like the whole of everything and it cancelled back out to nothing. That was actually on the acid trip, on one of them. High dose acid trip, solo trip. And then and then I didn't do psychedelics for 2 years. And then in 2020 was when I basically started getting access to mushrooms, and I was experimenting with those from mostly from 2020 to 2023. And I've finished my mushrooms, and I've told myself I'm gonna take a break because I don't want to be like become like some, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not even like some psycho. I've done quite a few trips, but like, I'm not one of them guys that's doing so much because even the tolerance as well. Like you can't really even do them too much because otherwise it's yeah. So I don't think I could ever get addicted to psychedelics, but it's literally just something I told myself. Yeah, I'm gonna stop from when I finish this batch, and then yeah, that's been my decision from now. So I'm not saying I'll never do psychedelics again. I might do in the future if it somehow arises, but I don't have any kind of like desire to do them. Like there's not really anything to gain from them anymore, if you get what I'm saying. Like they were a good tool. You have to realize these things are all tools. None of these things, like you could give someone a tool, like a hammer or something, and you tell them, yeah, like do like make this thing and these nails or something, and then they're gonna like smash their thumb and this and that and break the wall. Then you could give it to someone else and they've done a masterpiece. Like the tool isn't the one who did the thing, if you get what I'm saying. It's a tool, completely impersonal. You know what I'm saying? So like that's why this whole illusion of we should give the whole world psychedelics and everyone will, and the whole world will have the mass awakening and it will all be peace. Like that's an illusion. Like you have to realize psychedelics are like a magnifier, and it kind of like your mind, what's already your mind, is being magnified, is being filtered through, like the energy is being filtered through. So if your structure is already fucked up, like the trips are gonna just be even more fucked, and it's just gonna just be a mess. That's not like psychedelics don't just magically just fix everything. But at the same time, that is not to say that psychedelics are not powerful and cannot give the right person access to insane states of consciousness, like insane peaks of consciousness which are beyond like being able to be fathomed or even remembered. There's some states of consciousness which are so high they can be directly accessed, but you can't, it's impossible to remember them because like your brain, like even though you think you have a brain, but like, let's just say you have a brain, like your brain can't even comprehend that. Like this is all an illusion, a hologram, your body, but it's like in the dream it exists, so to speak, because it stands out from the other objects which, so to speak, exist or appear to exist. That's all that existence is. It's like that boundary between them, like this, like is its own cup, like it exists. It's a boundary separate from me, the human who's picking it up. So your human body exists, relatively speaking, but yeah, so in the absolute, even though there's no such thing as a brain really, or brain is a brain, but there's not really such a thing as a brain really. like a brain is a brain in the absolute. So it is itself, like, but it's just like, how can I put it? Like a brain, like what we think a brain is, like this separate, like object, like organ thing that exists in our head, that like all of this is kind of being computed within. That's kind of like the reference point that we give to ourselves in this dream. As I said, your body exists, but it only exists in the dream. And in the dream, there's layers. And there's layers in the dream which explain lower parts of the dream. And then, as I said, see, and then you're going to say those are reality. It's like, oh, like this explains this. And then you're going to think, oh, like that's like outside of the dream, like the laws of physics or something like that. But that's all still within it. What's it called? This is why I shouldn't fucking make videos while I smoke, man. My memory just goes fucked. Well, not in a mad way, but like just to be actually explaining topics like this, you can't fucking be smoking, man. But I still think that I said a few things of value. I'm gonna rewatch it because it was decently long, and then I'm gonna just make some notes, and I'll fill in the gaps properly in it. And yeah, one more point. So the reason why I was explaining that a brain is a brain or so on and so forth, basically, and I kind of got lost there, but the whole reason why I was saying that was because in the relative plane, we kind of think that everything that we experience, like everything that you see right now, we contextualize as being the external world that's being, like, my senses are seeing it, like the thing that's there, the external world, the physical thing that's there, without, like, it's there without me seeing it because it's a physical, tangible object. Then me looking at it, I'm like seeing it with my senses or picking it up or recording it. My brain is computing it and then I'm experiencing it. And even though like scientifically minded people will say, or anyone who's gone to school and so on might say, yes, this is just an image of the world. It's not really the world, but it's still representing the real world. And that's all happening within my brain, kind of. That's kind of the grounds that we use. We're using like physical atoms and so on to grounds like the physical objects that we're perceiving. So we ground our perception, we ground supposed perceptual experience through senses. Like we think that we have senses. One axiom is that we have senses which allow us to see the truth or the objects that are there. So that's one ground. Another ground is atoms, that the atoms are really there, which create this structure, this form. So there's the form, which is made of these units. So that's one ground. And I'm also made of these units, but they're arranged in a different way, and it somehow creates a human. And then this human is so complex, and then it has senses, so it can reflect back, self-reflect, and see this form here. And then it's all computed within my brain. That's another ground, if you get what I'm saying. So my whole point was that we would kind of say all of this is happening in the brain, or like even with psychedelics, we might say, oh, like all of that was just hallucinations in the brain and stuff. But recognize that even in your sober state, so if you're saying everything that the psychedelic done was a hallucination, then realize that even your sober state is a hallucination. It's just a sober hallucination. But then you'll say, oh no, but there's not anything like altering my brain. But see, it's just all chemicals. So that all you're saying is just, that we just done this chemical and it created this experience. We could give you that other chemical and it will create that experience. We could give you no chemicals and it will create this experience. But it's just all chemicals. It's all just a chemical soup. And all the different ones that you experience, or like all the chemicals or lack of chemicals, will create different experiences. And let's say the chemicals are in your brain or in your nerves or whatever. Like, but you see, you have to realize that. And that's basically the main thing that psychedelics will help you realize, is that everything is an appearance. Everything is a hallucination. It's not that, just only when you take psychedelics, that's a hallucination. Or you could say, yeah, that when you can say that there's no hallucinations. You're seeing the world exactly as it is. And then when you take psychedelics, there's also no hallucinations. You're seeing the world exactly how it is, just through a different lens or a higher pitch. Or you could also say, when you take psychedelics, it is a hallucination. But then also, even when you're sober, it's also a hallucination, just a different kind of hallucination.
if you get what I'm saying. It was kind of the same thing as what I was explaining with the dreams, how the waking dream is longer and it seems more self-perpetual and consistent, and then some of your other dreams are shorter and they may seem more flexible and stuff. So you think that's a dream, but you see, those are both limitations and forms, just different kinds of forms. Um, and all of that we say is couched within the brain, but the main thing you have to realize is that no, even your brain and your body and everything is within the consciousness, and the brain is also within the dream, but that's just basically a higher level order thing that we basically say is computing and precipitating the rest of it. But even that, when you realize, oh, even there's no brain, like that thing, brain, like that's an imaginary concept. So this isn't being computed anywhere. Like, where is it happening? Like, look around all your sense perceptions. It's not happening inside of your body, really. It's not happening inside your brain. You can't see a brain. You've never like experienced your own brain. That's a concept. Even if you saw like you went to science and they showed you a model of a brain, a plastic model, or you even went to school and they cut open like a cow's brain. That I did that, like a real cow's brain, and so and then you say, oh, that's a brain. I have a brain, and that's where it's all happening. See, those are just stories and labels and boxes, but realize like you've never really experienced your own brain. You can't see a brain creating consciousness, because how could you? It's this mind-body problem. Like, how did consciousness or mind come from just matter, or just it didn't? Realize matter is inside of mind. That's what you have to realize. Matter is inside of mind, and even you might say our brain is matter, and brain is a type of matter that can self-reflect and see all the other matter through its senses, which are also matter, and looking at other like objects which are also matter but may not be sentient. But then see, that's all matter, and that's happening within mind, which is in a sense consciousness or formless. So that's the main kind of flip you have to get. Like, no, this stuff you're seeing is not like happening in your physical human brain, and you're a human with a brain and you're computing this. No, like, human brain is inside of consciousness, not consciousness is inside the brain. No. So yeah, that was basically a little interval of what I was explaining in that section. So yeah, I'm gonna just finish off that video. Yeah, I made a couple notes, but I didn't even really do too much. But because I kind of want to I want to just start a fresh video. But I'm gonna finish this one, and then yeah. So I think essentially the main thing what I was kind of trying to say, I was speaking about self-realization, my journey from enlightenment. Yeah, and kind of the progression. So yeah, how I got enlightened, and then yeah, I was speaking about in 2020 kind of the death experience. And I think that's where I kind of got sidetracked with the psychedelics and all of that stuff. And I was saying with the acid that I also died. I said psychologically, but even though that was also just as much of a death, but 2022 with that Shiva experience that I kind of was speaking about, that one was just a complete different quality. Like, it genuinely, it didn't feel like, oh, like, because with the other one where it was complete ego death and just a collapse of the whole universe, with the acid, in the 2020, which wasn't the enlightenment itself, but that was in roughly in that same period of time, in that 2020. Obviously the progression was overall, but there's these main kind of episode peaks within my journey that I'm just speaking, the highlighted moments. And yeah, with that one, it was a different quality. Like, that was just as like I had to fully let go and die, with the acid one, but it didn't really feel like the physical body died. It was almost like I just forgot about the physical body completely, and it was just a collapse of everything. But with this shiver experience, even though that also happened, and even to a deeper degree, but I also genuinely felt like my physical body, me, Nathaniel, was dying. Like I genuinely felt like I actually had died. Not that I was dying, like that I had died physically. And it was almost like this was in 2022, and it was almost like even though even though, as I said, with the acid one, it was kind of like everything expanded. I saw the whole thing at once, and then it collapsed, and just it was like a big bang and a big crunch. But then with this one, it was almost like I died and I was just dead. Just a different kind of trip. I remember it was at midnight, completely alone, 4 gram mushroom trip, and what's it called? I remember distinctly at the beginning of the trip. It was a very clear message. I remember what I wished for, well, not what I wished for, but kind of my intention for that trip was to see the unseen. That was basically what it was, to see the unseen. And then I remember as it was coming on, it was yeah, it was very clear to me that I was the one in the way. It was clear to me that I can't see this. I have to die, and then it can be this. The unseen can be seen, so to speak. And then, so yeah, I genuinely died. And it's not gonna really sound like it's just gonna say, oh, if you felt like you died. It's not. It doesn't really. You're not gonna feel the weight of it because you didn't experience it. But yeah, um, it was just of a completely different quality. And that was basically when, like, once I was dead, it was like I saw, instead of just seeing everything at once and it all collapsing, it was like it was just an eternal screen, and then it was like I was seeing, like them time lapses. If you've ever watched a time lapse, it was almost like I saw a time lapse of the whole of existence, the whole of eternity, just from before the Big Bang to just everything, the whole of eternity. And in a sense, it doesn't end, but it's like I just saw everything. It's just like I just saw everything. It was insane. And then that was also when I saw a manifestation of Shiva, which wasn't obviously Shiva itself, because you have to remember any form, even though this was extremely low, subtle, like light density. And that's even what I would even kind of say it, an encounter of angels. I would almost say that angels, or an encounter of angels, even if you hear about in the Bible, if you go on Google and type in what real angels look like, and I'm not saying it looks exactly like that, but it kind of had that kind of quality to where it was, it's not like just seeing like some human or something. It was like completely alien, almost like it was, it was insanely beautiful, but it was so awesome. Like it was just like staggering. Like there's certain kind of things like it just floors you. It's not even about being good or bad or nice or anything. It's just like for example, if you see like I call a tiger, it's just some small thing we see on Earth. But if you really look at it as a human, like a tiger or like I don't know, like a shark or something, like a tiger or a shark, it could kill you, but you still kind of look at it in amazement. Like it's not really saying that it's good, but it's just like you can't you can't really like deny it. Like it was it's something kind of like that. Um, and um, and yeah, so essentially what I'm saying is that what I would kind of class an encounter with an angel is just basically God, but kind of it's like you're already a lower dense incarnation of God, kind of climbing back to your true self, but it's almost like God or your higher self kind of sends down something that at least like it has to have at least some kind of form so you can at least perceive it, because You see, like the formless can't be perceived because it doesn't have a form. So what are you going to sense? There's no difference. Remember, I told you senses is like everything is a difference. Everything is a boundary, which are all changing, fluctuating. And our minds have these constants and we're algorithms looking at other things and identifying that box and that. You see, you have to be able to see the distinction of this to even label that's a mug. Like if there's no distinctions, like what is there? It's just everything is uniform. You see? So it's kind of like particularity, that's existence, the world, and then the formless is just uniform. It's just unto itself. There's not even a space or gap or anything for a form. It's just formless. So it can't be seen. So God has to at least come down in some kind of form. It'll be very light density, so light, hard, like to where you have to be extremely enlightened, extremely awakened at an extreme peak of consciousness to even be able to perceive it. It's that like, it's not stark. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like to you at the moment, it's extremely stark. It's the most stark thing there is. But it's just that what I'm saying is that it's just like, it's paradoxical. It's like, it's extremely stark and in front of you in that moment. But what I'm saying is that it's so low density and like, I mean, it's so subtle that you have to be at such a peak of consciousness to even be able to perceive that form. So what I'm saying is that angel encounters are almost like God kind of coming down, showing it's not even showing you his face. Yeah, it's kind of like showing you his face. You never see the whole thing, because if you see the whole thing, then that's kind of like, as I was saying with the acid thing, to where everything just collapses and cancels out because there's nothing to begin with. So it has to leave a little trace for you to even be able to perceive it. But it can be so close to the formless, like seeing a form like that, a form that is actually a form. It has something, but it's so light density. When you perceive something like that, it's insane. It's purely paradoxical when you see it, because it was almost like, it's not even like a perception. It was almost like a non-perception. That's what it felt like. It felt like a non-perception, which sounds it just doesn't sound like, it doesn't make any sense. But when I saw this shape, this appearance of Shiva, and as I said before, this, you might think, oh, that was just like some imagination or something like I worshipped Shiva before that, and then no, like I was obviously on the path of enlightenment, all these things, but I didn't. Shiva was just like any other elephant god or whatever. I gave no kind of thing to that. But then when I had this experience myself, it was like that. Only then, that's when I started kind of like looking at Shiva and say, like, only after I had already directly experienced it and become it almost. Only then, that's when I kind of started researching and educate. Obviously, I was already educated on enlightenment and so on, but like kind of the more like Indian kind of, not Indian philosophy or like Hinduism or anything, but just even kind of studying what Shiva is, or what that's supposed to refer to. And yeah, it was almost like, it's so perfect that it's called the dancing Shiva, because have you ever seen, it's almost like a coin that's flipping. It's like, it was literally, when I seen it, it was dancing. They say the dancing Shiva because it was literally almost like, imagine this shape. It was almost not a dark figure. It was like a shape that had no shape, right? It was like a shapeshifter. And it was like, imagine his head is facing this way. And the moment my mind registered that it was facing this way, it was facing that way. And then the moment that, not even the moment that I registered, it was in an instant, it was like it was basically it was an incarnation of uncertainty and peak oscillation and nothing in particular. Shiva, that which is not this, not that. What does nothing mean? People think nothing. When they think of, as I said, your mind only knows distinctions, only knows oppositions, only knows things. So when your mind hears nothing, you think of nothing as a thing. But what nothing is nothing in particular. See, that then it makes it so much more clear and easier to understand. When I say nothing, don't think of a black silent void. See, those are things, those are qualities. This has no quality at all. And recognize the only way something can have no quality is to have all the qualities. Like, look. I didn't even plan this, but consciousness is like a self-reflection. Look, like literally, You see how, yeah? You see that? See the infinite regress? Like, you can see it's already there's too much light, so you can't see, but it's basically a screen within a screen within a screen, infinite inception. You see the holons and it zooms in and out. Like, essentially, you see how, yeah? What color, obviously, people might say silver, but recognize that what color does a mirror have? You see how it has no color of its own because it's just reflecting all the other colors. Like, what color is this? You're seeing black there and yellow there, but that's just reflecting other colors. So what color is the mirror itself? See, because this is a physical object and it's limited, it had to be kind of made out of something. So you could almost say it's silver or something like that. But really, the whole essence of it is that even on like a window, you look out the window, like, what color is a window? It's transparent. It has no color of its own. You're just seeing what's behind it. With the mirror, it has no color of its own. It's kind of just, you're just seeing what it's reflecting. So that's like consciousness. That's like the formlessness. It has no form of its own. Do you get it? It's just a light that shines on everything that's not it itself. So how did I get to that point? I know I was speaking about Shiva. So yeah, and I just recognized that it was eternal. It was never created. This Shiva, which in a sense, this form, this was just a form or manifestation, like an angel or just something that basically it just appeared to me so that I could see it. But this basically represented everything. That's what I'm saying. It was almost like the whole universe condensed into a macrocosm just as an appearance for you to look at it and kind of see everything all at once. That's kind of like an angel, or you know what I'm saying? An angel is not really someone different than God. It's God kind of coming down to you, at least in a way to where you will recognize it. Why do angels come as humans? So that you can at least recognize it. But you see, like, and then they say like Jesus or something was a prophet and was the son of God. In a sense, it was God, see, but it had to come and incarnate as a human so that other humans would at least recognize it and say like, oh yeah, that's another human. But really, it wasn't even a human. Like, awakening and all these things, true awakening, you're transcending humanity. Others will still label you a human. That will never go. But at a particular point, you're not going to really self-identify as a human anymore. And see, so that was my notes. What's that? Yeah, so like as I said, so in a sense, that's basically the whole of existence. And then this is what I'm speaking about, Shiva, which is kind of like the peak of the dream still, which is like just pure potential, neither nor. And then as it precipitates down, it manifests into dense particular forms. And the higher and higher it goes, the more like light dense and more probabilistic it is. It just becomes a higher and higher potential, but it's nothing in particular. And then see, the absolute is outside, like it's the absolute is inside and outside, but the absolute is just the absolute. If you like, that's transcending the dream. So what I'm saying is that these other enlightened people, they're kind of, and this is all good. You need to go through this. As I said, you can't skip from down here just to out here. No, you have to go all the way up, and only from here you can make the quantum leap. So what I was kind of explaining with that whole Shiva thing, when I died and saw all of eternity and then saw Shiva, this manifestation, and it was dancing, and I recognized that it's not this, not that, and you can't kill it because it was never created, it's not alive nor dead. That's when that's when I realized that life is death. But see, that's going to sound contradictory because I always tell you that everything is itself and absolute, and life is life and death is death. And that's true. But see, that was the level above. That's the absoluteness. But see, that's why I was saying this is the peak of the dream of uncertainty where life is death. And in a sense, that's true. Like within the dream and incarnate, life is death. Like once those two kind of merge, it was such a crazy experience to me. Like I was literally walking around in my house, in my living room. My mum has these plants and stuff. I was looking at I was just looking at everything. And even usually, sometimes you might look at something and you might say, oh, it's alive. Or you might not say anything. But then even in this state, it was I was literally looking at everything. But this was obviously also a particular lens. But even from this lens, it's way easy. Normally, it's easier to see that everything is alive and like rising and living. But in this state, it was so clear to me that everything is just dying. Everything is just dying. Life is death itself. Everything is just dying. That whole trip was just all about death. And then I almost died. And I also in that moment realized why, like how, like, as I said, I chose to come back to life. And there was particular reasons why I did that, and I'm not going to explain all of those. But yeah, without those, that's what I'm saying. If you get to this point, and usually most people who get to this point, and if they still hold on to the body, they're not really holding on to the body for their own self. It's usually for others or someone else, or supporting the other or some other. It's never for themselves. If you get what I'm saying. Like at that point, if you've truly hit that point, if you died in that instant, there's nothing unfulfilled. See, you only really would have a problem of dying. Alright, cool. I'm not saying people, or even if you're enlightened, you're not scared of death or what. Like, people aren't scared of death. People are scared of dying or the process of dying, and they're also scared of their imagination of what they think death might be like, which isn't death. And the only reason why, especially if it was a painless death, like let's say if you told everyone today, "Alright, cool, you can press this button and you'll go sleep tonight, and painlessly you'll die and not wake up tomorrow." Even some people who say they want to die and this and that, if you gave them that option, they wouldn't really do it. And why that is, see, because in this analogy we've erased like the painful death or whatever, or dying of some crazy disease. It's not that, but the reason why, and especially, and even if in this analogy they knew there's no afterlife, there's no hell or anything, like you just die and it's just like going to sleep and you just won't wake up again. Like, so they're not afraid of like pain or any hell or anything like that after, right? Or before, process before. So let's say we took all of those out, still a lot of people wouldn't press that button. And why? It's because they feel like there's unfulfilled desires and there's still things that need to be done first. And remember how I explained everything in the desire video as well, how life is desire and the direction of the dream, and how because remember, we're in eternity and it's nothing. So there's not really any even incentive to move, because you already are everything and you already are everywhere. So for you to even move, you have to only be here and not there. You have to only have this much and not have that. So I'm here and I want that to increase me. See, the ego is like a bubble, and then you go here to get that thing to increase your bubble, and then get that other thing and then increase your bubble, and you're trying to encapsulate more and more. That's like the ego's game, and then it will only reach a certain amount necessarily and collapse and die. But what I'm saying through enlightenment awakening is you have to burst the bubble and get everything all at once. But yeah, so that Shiva experience, that was the peak of that. That was in 2022, but then in 2023, that's when I got self-realized. And then that was basically, as I said, so from before enlightenment, I was really trying to get enlightened. I didn't know what it was. I was fantasizing. I was trying to get about it. I was obsessed with it. Then it happened. Then I didn't really care that much about enlightenment, because it was really just a shift. But then there was like integration, and it just felt like, even though I didn't really care about getting enlightened, it just felt like I was just just infinitely going to higher and higher levels. And as layers were peeling off me, as the anchors were dropping off me, as all the heavy stuff, it was just like I was naturally rising, if you get what I'm saying. And it felt like it just goes forever. And that's what a lot of these enlightened people are saying right now. And to some degree, they're true, but they're still in the dream, if you get what I'm saying. Even though they're out, but they're not completely out yet. Because if they really got self-realized, they would see that there's no progression at all. There's just the illusion of progression. For the sake of the story, entertainment. So yeah, and then it was integrating, and then why I said that self-realization was so shocking, and just like yeah, why I said it was so shocking was because like everything, obviously all the stages of enlightenment, as I said, were so shocking as well. But it was almost like I'd there was other enlightened people I could go on YouTube and hear them speaking about that, or they're speaking about consciousness, or they're speaking about no will, or they're speaking about like peak states of bliss, or you know what I'm saying, or the dark night of the soul, or any of this kind of stuff. And then like I could, yeah, like there was other people who spoke about that. I may have heard that thing before. There were some things of enlightenment that I experienced that obviously in the moment it was completely shocking, but it was kind of exactly like what all the guru said. So it was kind of just like reinforcing, and it was like, yeah, like I'm getting more enlightened, and it all kind of made sense. But then this was like, it was such a shocker because it was like I'd never heard it anywhere. I'd never heard it anywhere. And in this particular moment when I got self-realized, I wasn't even sure if anyone, now I'm sure there's other self-realized people, but it's so like just, obviously you can say like, oh, how, but you don't have access to other people's minds, so how do you know how awake they are, whatever. But, and that's true, but you can just kind of tell that there's certain things that are just, it's like, oh, like imagine you find gold or you find some diamond or something that's extremely rare, but like it's that times infinity. It's just like, imagine, it's just that times infinity. It's just something completely different. It's like you stumbled upon the ultimate gold, man. And it wasn't like you just stumbled upon it, because even at that point you recognize that the whole path is perfectly designed so that there's so many like ways that you could veer off along the path. And then like you could have only got there if you stayed so straight, and you just like you can never get, like you can't get deviated or this or that, like, and only if you're completely authentic and sincere will you ever even get there. Like otherwise everything, like you'll get veered off, or you'll get like caught in these illusions of enlightenment, and like I'm gonna try and get cities and try and get powers, or I'm gonna try and start healing people and predicting the future. See, that's where you're getting lost in the dream. You see, you're getting caught in the deviations. Those people, there are some enlightened people who like probably can heal people and do more magical stuff than I can, but they're not self-realized. Like, and those people look more impressive and more flashy. You see, the lower levels, they get more impressed by the flashy stuff anyway. So that's why they're going to even be so susceptible to like fake prophets and all that. Because the flashy guy's going to do one thing, but then to even have gotten those powers, what was the cost? Like, there already has to be some kind of self-vanity and some kind of power. Like obviously, some people want to really help you, like, but you know what I'm saying, just performing miracles, and you want people to bow at your feet and all of this kind of stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm sorry. This episode, I didn't. In my next few episodes, I'm gonna be more structured. Like, there was a couple videos. I think the Trap of the Chosen and a couple of those, and the money and the zero sum game and so on, where I was more structured and it just flowed better. But I also do like doing these ones, and I feel like it might be more difficult to follow, understand that. And even when I rewatch as well, certain times I'm following on along a certain track of thought, and then as I said, I get tangent, like go on tangents, and sometimes that point might not even land. But usually I do end up circling back anyway. But that's why I recommend really rewatching these many times. But yeah, so as I said, so like kind of enlightenment would have almost been like maybe like up here, and then you finally get to like like let's say like here 2/3 of the way, and then you kind of get to the peak of that, and then like see, this is what I'm saying. At this peak, you think you're at the like you think it's all over, if you get what I'm saying. But then at like the absolute, it was so shocking, but it was so obvious, like, and it was self-realization. It sounds so crazy, but I remember I was sitting there, and I was like, I remember I was questioning, am I myself? Am I me? Am I am I myself? Like, am I? I didn't even know if I was myself at that point. It was peak uncertainty, remember, because you had to go through all the uncertainty, you had to go through, and to get enlightened, it's almost like, remember, because at that point, the people who are trying to get enlightened are already unenlightened, and they're identified with the body, and they identify, oh yes, I am myself. But when they say that, they're saying their body or their mind or their thoughts or their beliefs or whatever. And then so throughout your whole spiritual journey, it's like you're told that you're not that, you're not you. Shiver that which is not. You're not the body. You're not this. Like, disregard that, so on and so forth, and then you keep on disregarding, and then you do realize loads of things is not that, but then there's still something there, and then you try and rationalize, oh, like, but that's just consciousness, kind of, or that's just zero shape shifting, or I don't know, but there's still something there that you still can't really explain. That's why there's even a lot of awakened people or gurus and stuff that I watch on YouTube, and I can tell, I'm not even trying to discredit them, I can tell the way they're speaking, everything that they're saying is true. I can tell they've had certain experiences, or relatively true, but then there's even certain things that they're saying to where there's certain things they can't explain, and then they're just saying, oh, it can't be understood, and it's just, and it's true. But I can just tell, like, see, you can be at a certain level of enlightenment and realize all the things that you're not, but you still don't know what you are. You know what's kind of not true, but you still don't know what's true. That's the thing. Like, and then self-realization, it almost felt, and I'm not trying to say, oh, Christianity's higher or anything like this, but like that moment, genuinely, like, it's gonna see, you're gonna get the wrong idea. I'm not trying to be religious or anything, but it almost felt biblical. Like it just had a different, it was just, nah, like that was actually something different. It was like a divine intervention. Like, it was pure order. One is equal to one. Everything is itself. Black is black. I am myself. Truth is true. Like, everything just made sense. It was just pure order. And then I recognized the whole cut, and how all there is the self, and the whole world and everything is essentially what is not the self, or what is not true, to higher and lower degrees. Everything is measured against that one truth, that one anchor. You can have closer and further away deviations, and really the only certain thing you can say, the only thing you can know for certain, or the only thing you can even say for certain. That's why a lot of this stuff I'm claiming, or whatever, or people claim this, or this is absolutely true. That's why I explain in the absolute and relative truth videos that you can't just say that there's many absolute truths. Like, no, there's only one. All you can say for certain is that you are yourself. And when I'm saying that, I'm not even saying, no, yeah, I am Nathaniel, or I am this. No, I'm saying I am myself. Nathaniel is Nathaniel. I'm not Nathaniel. I'm not this body. I am myself, though. And then you're saying, but what is that, though? It's just me. It is itself. Everything is self, like, reinforcing. Everything is acausal and supports itself. Nothing creates everything else. Like, it's just absolute. It could never not be that. See, like, everything I want to explain is about self-realization, but the whole problem is that everything I say isn't it. And all you can really speak about is the relative plane, or the field of Maya, or you know what I'm saying? Like the absolute, it can't be spoken about. It just is. It's the ground, like it just like is. If you get what I'm saying. Um, so I almost would kind of, even though the absolute and Shiva don't really contradict each other, even though one kind of is and the other isn't, or that which is not. See, but that's why it makes sense that it says that which is not. It's not just saying non-existence; it's saying that which is not. So that is kind of saying that there isn't that is. That's basically what Shiva is. There isn't that is, and then and a lot of the Indians kind of, as I said, refer Shiva as the Mahadev, and in the triangle or in the dream, so to speak, it is the Mahadev. But I would almost say that the isness is above that, but in a sense, it's the same thing because I am myself is also just a loop or circular, which also kind of just represents the nothingness. So that's why, in the end, you get to ground zero. There's just nothing. That's what I'm saying. It's just nothing. So nothing else can be said that. And the cosmic joke is realizing that. The cosmic joke is realizing that, and yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna make some other videos, and yeah, I'm gonna make those ones more structured. That was a bit of a ramble, but I think if you listen to it again and again, and especially with my other videos, I think like if you watch like my other videos and then you kind of your mind starts to put the pieces together, then you'll start to understand like where I'm going for way more, rather than like if you just watch one thing, you might misinterpret that, and then if you just watch one thing, but if you watch like 3 or 4 or 5 videos and then your mind starts to put it together, then you'll start to kind of get what I'm saying. So really, it's just all nothing. The x and y are 0, 0, and then there's deviations, but because it's always that, it's always balanced. It's even balanced. True balanced is balanced between balanced and unbalanced. True absolute balance is the balance between balance and unbalance, relative balance and relative unbalance. Because you see, there is no such thing as absolute unbalance. Because absolute unbalanced is unbalanced. Like unbalancedness is unbalanced, which is balanced. That's what I keep on explaining with the is and the is and the isn't is. That's what I'm saying. So this is just fundamental ground zero. I even go like, it sounds like I'm just speaking words, but I go on Instagram, I see these they're speaking about what is consciousness. Like new scientists are coming up with new theories. They think it's electricity. They think it's this or that. Like they have no idea. They're lost because they still think that consciousness is a thing that exists. Like, or is something substantial, or is something that humans have, or that's been generated by the brain. But man, no. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave that one there.